Welcome back, everybody. It wouldn't be a shit show if I didn't have some sort of technical issue when it comes to setting these things up. So I've got some amazing guests with me. One of them, not so much that we're used to. That guy is Chris Cooksey. He likes to start a bunch of crap on the internet, so we love him for it and his views on everything. And then we've got
hold on.
Harris.
Let me let the people in. So the reason Coach isn't here is he's on an airplane. He texts both Johnny and I. And Johnny goes, well, I guess I need to read between the lines. I'm like, no, Johnny, the actual line said he won't be there. There's no reading in between any lines. So that's where Coach is.
Yes, Coach is on an airplane from London. He had a couple of performance camps on there. So thanks for throwing me under the bus. The viewers already know that I'm a dumbass, Cooksey. We don't need to try to nail home.
I'm sorry. It was too funny not to share. I'm like, it's the line, not
the longest introduction ever. So we got Derick Harris here with HP Performance. He is the motor builder for some of the top privateers. And we have Lesher here, which is the 250 phenom that qualified for some supercrosses on a two-stroke. I don't know how he did it because he's at such a disadvantage, but maybe it's not that much of a disadvantage because of his motor builder. So how the hell are you guys doing?
Doing good.
No press day today?
No, they said it was too muddy, but it's not looking very muddy out there.
They just didn't want the extra work. Are you tearing up the track, Jared?
That's exactly what I said. That's exactly what I said earlier. He was getting geared up and everything too, and then he got the text that it was canceled.
Oh, you got to get your fresh, clean gear, sweaty and nasty, put it on. That sucks.
He didn't work that hard. Yeah, I don't know if I worked all that hard, but I was pretty disappointed I had to take it back off. Yeah, I was ready to ride.
Yeah. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
Jared, I know we only got like 15 minutes here. Sorry, I'm being the typical dickhead. That's why these virtual, I can't wait for Meta and, Apple. They've got their new $4,000 headset coming on here. So we can all be sitting here bench racing about motorcycle racing next to each other. And that way, if you wanted to punch me in the face, you could augment, what is it? Augmented reality where you could kind of punch me in the face, but it would just kind of go through. And then I could have one of those segues of, anyway.
With your face deforming and spit flying out.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I'll spit out a tooth or something. But anyway, I know we don't have a whole lot of time with the mechanic, Michael, and Jared, the rider. Do you guys think you guys are at a big disadvantage for High Point?
No, probably not. I think if it was, if the track is super, super deep, I obviously think that it might be a little bit of a disadvantage, but looking at the track as it sits right now, it doesn't look terrible, like they ripped it super, super deep. So if anything, maybe a little bit of struggle in the morning when the track's fresh, but I think throughout the day I think the bike would be fine.
What about that grate on the start? Is it much different than Supercross, or do you think that's going to help you actually potentially get a better start because you're not going to have to deal with potentially that two-stroke spinning versus those four strokes having the advantage of being the tractors where they have traction?
For me, I feel like the dirt starts better against the four strokes. I don't really know why that is, or if that's just, I don't know, whatever it was, just doing some of the money races against the 450s, we ripped some good hole shots last year. Just for example, the Muddy Creek showdown, the Suzuki showdown, Top Gun showdown, it was 20 grand on the line. We pulled one, I think 2 or 3 hole shots that weekend. So against 450s, and then it's uphill, obviously Muddy Creek uphill, tight left, but and that's a dirt start. So, but yeah, the grade, it's obviously consistent every single time, but I don't know, man. I like that old school, being able to pick your line, pick your gate, pick your rut, being able to prep it the way you want to prep it. And I'm a real firm believer in that really does. That changes the racing because then it's not, super consistent for everybody.
Hey, Jared, this is Cooksey. So I think those grates are adding to the danger factor because you're getting an extra 3 to 5 mile an hour off the line and everyone's side by side. You don't get that separation like you would with dirt, in being that it's inconsistent. One guy might have a good spot and a bad spot. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's probably I would say that's probably true. In a sense. Yeah. I think that has some truth behind it. Like I said, I mean, there is some sort of, I mean, there's something to be said about, and it does sound stupid to say out loud, but there's something to be said about being able to pack and prep a gate correctly in different types of soil with different situations. So, and being able to pick a line, that kind of thing. Obviously, we're all professionals. We're able to pick the best line for what gate choice we have, but being able to prep that gate or having your mechanic being able to prep that gate, I mean, that does change a lot. A lot of those guys just fill the thing in or used to fill the gate at, the rut in. A lot of the time you just spin that stuff out as soon as you dump the clutch. So, I think there's different methods to packing, a dirt start as opposed to where you just step up on a grate. And I mean, it kind of is what it is, and everybody has the same start, which is fine. I mean, in a sense, it does make the racing closer, I feel like, because I mean, I guess it's more consistent, and everybody's going to get a better start. I mean, so to say, but I think in some sense it does take away from the racing aspect of it as well. Just moto in general.
But I think to your point too, like the danger. I mean, you got 40 guys coming off the gate, pretty much all in a line, and outdoors usually has a faster first turn. I mean, it's not like Supercross where you have like a tight 180 or something like that into the first turn. I mean, the speed going into the first turn and through the first turn is a lot higher. So when you go 40 wide, like you said, almost in a line, I mean, it's pretty much who's going to hold on to it that extra millisecond longer before shutting it down. And some dude on the inside wads it up. I mean, you've already seen it. There's been some pretty gnarly pileups this year, but
yeah,
Well,
it's ironic how many.
And people are comparing it to MXGP because they've been using it great forever. But what people don't know about the MXGP or they're overlooking is the MXGP is angled to where the inside has a bigger jump. So you're already separated just a little bit.
Well, and there's 25 guys on average versus
Typically.
40, right? And typically what Jared and Michael are talking about is usually on a gate, you'll have one dude instantly be like 2 inches ahead or a whole wheel ahead, and then he'll pinch off and these guys will have to kind of slow down, or this guy will wheelie and have to pull in the clutch. So not everyone, just like what you're saying, is fairly straight, so that the moto deal with the metal gates, I'm kind of, I don't like them. I don't like them at all. And not to segue away from that, but do you guys know how many points you guys have for the Super Motocross Championship? Are you guys inside the top 20 in the 450 class or close?
yeah, I think we got like 5 points or something like that. I think the top 20 right now is at like 130 or something. Yeah, we're way out of it.
Okay. But
I mean, a lot of guys are. I mean, I don't even think, since like Moran's is even doing outdoors, I don't even know if he's going to have enough to qualify in.
And then I think, isn't it like 20 to 30, you get a chance at the LCQ? Like, are you guys definitely, if you given the opportunity, are you going to try to qualify for the playoffs in the two-stroke? Because I know a bunch of fans that would love to see the two-stroke in there.
Yeah, we've been asked about it. If it's feasible and it makes sense for sure. Absolutely.
Did you guys see the post today on one of the socials from somewhere? Maybe somebody can clarify with the companies, but I think they said Motorsport and someone else was going to kick in 5K for top finishing two-stroke, but it might have been only at Washougal.
Yeah, it's for Washougal. So Motorsport and Moto Memes. Moto Memes was the one who posted it, or the original comment on Carson Brown's post about doing Washougal, and then Motorsport came on and said they would match it. So it's like 10 grand up for grabs for the highest finishing two-stroke at Washougal.
That wasn't on your list of races, right? Because that's across the country for you guys. That's like a 24-hour drive or something, right?
Yeah, no, it's corner to corner for us. So I know it's a lot of money on the line, but if we're going to hopefully get 10,000, it's like, I mean, that's you're gambling on that one spot. So I mean, you have
if they made it a purse, so if maybe a couple other people kick in and they paid everybody who decided to show up, like top 3, which maybe there won't even be 3, would it be more feasible? Because for you guys to go there and back's probably a $2,000 to $3,000 trip all the way across the country like that.
Well,
so that's a rough trip.
Yeah, that'd be a rough go, but it definitely would be fun. I think at least right now on the entry list, I mean, there's 90 entries for 450. I think there's 6 two-strokes this weekend.
That's good.
So I know it's us, Burkeen, not sure who the other guys are, but I mean, we're getting there. They're coming back.
Come back in numbers, baby.
Yeah.
Just hey, and just so you guys know too, I believe it's the Thursday before Washougal. They have that PIR race, the Portland International.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you do go out there, you could probably make a nice chunk of change if you do go ahead to that corner for that weekend.
Yeah, that I know they have that night race out there too. It's kind of like how Tampa does that Tampa Pro race before Daytona, I believe.
Exactly. It pays pretty good.
How well do you ride outdoors, Jared? Obviously, we know you from Supercross this year. So are you excited? You're not excited? What are you thinking about riding High Point this weekend?
I'm excited. Well, I think I'm more excited because this is basically like it's close to where I grew up. So, obviously I know the track. I've ridden here for a really long time. So, that's exciting. And, I do enjoy the hills and being able to kind of charge up and down the hills. And, in Georgia, we don't really have anything to ride that has this kind of elevation. So, excited for that. And yeah, I ride outdoors decent. I'm not going to set the world on fire by any means, but I think if I get a good start, I'll give it a good run. I don't think I'm going to be, hopefully not like, mid 20s, 30s. So hopefully top 20 both motos. That's my goal, but then again, who knows? Honestly, just jumping in like these guys have already done 3 rounds. So getting that race intensity back. We have a race in Salt Lake. So, not making excuses, but it's definitely tough just jumping in and, but more or less just excited to be, I guess, here at one of the tracks that I enjoy and I like, and obviously being on a 2-stroke, and we raced some outdoors last year on a 2-stroke, but didn't really have the following, so to say, I guess, that we do now. So, I think people will be excited to see it out here, and we're also excited for that. Just keep everybody stoked on it.
Nice. I know that, Michael, you'd made a little update on the bike we had talked about a while back, and maybe the guys can check for that, but tell them a little bit about what you did. I thought it was really nice. You did a killer job on it.
Derek, you put a 500 kit in it, didn't you?
Yeah, we should have.
We finally listened to all the comments and we got the 500 kit on there. So, we added a radiator fan to the bike to just try and keep temps down a little bit as much as we can. Obviously, the YZ doesn't have a battery on it, so I had to get crafty with that to kind of wire that in and get that to run. So it's its own standalone setup there, and have a battery mounted on the seat pan underneath into the airbox. And it's just like a DeWalt drill battery, a 12-volt drill battery. So it's pretty slick. I need to get some pictures of it. I just got the bike built Wednesday night and hit the road Thursday. So I haven't had any time. Wheels are at Dunlop right now. So once I get them back here, I'll be able to go and take pictures of the bike and everything. Because we had one of our normal sponsors we've been with for a while now, Blood Lubricants. They actually stepped up and helped out this year, title sponsoring 3 of the rounds that we're doing, 3 of the 4. So we got a pretty badass looking bike for them. But yeah, no, the radiator fan it should help. It's obviously you are moving a little bit faster, so you are getting good airflow, but obviously it does get tight, and it is a long moto, so the bike is getting really hot. And whatever you can do to try and keep it under
you
control.
guys mind sharing? Are you guys going paddle tighter? What Dunlop are you using?
I just dropped them off. We went with the new 34s, front and rear. Just looking at the track, it doesn't look deep enough to kind of get a 14 or 11 or whatever the scoop tires they have right now.
Neither did Fox Raceway, but a bunch of those guys were running them.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, and if you haven't run a scoop tire, I'm speaking from a mechanic's point of view. I haven't rode in a long time, but if you haven't rode a scoop tire in a while, it is different from what I've heard from talking to Jared and other guys. It's like it is a learning curve. You don't want to just throw it on there and go out and run with it, but it doesn't look like it would need it. There's a lot of guys that are going down there dropping off wheels and like getting a scoop tire to possibly put on to a wheel later as like an option. It doesn't look like it's supposed to rain, but it could.
Jared, have you ran the new scoop? Because I hear that new scoop, you can damn near run it on hard packed and it feels very similar.
I have not. I haven't had any time on that weekend.
Yeah, it'd be fun to fun to try and stuff like that. But we obviously in Georgia, we're used to like pretty thick, hard clay.
Well,
some of the tracks
and
drives are easier.
I've also seen guys like Justin Cooper cut out the middle part of the MX-34 to make their own mixed shape.
Yeah, I saw
scoop.
your video on that. It was kind of interesting that they're doing that. Obviously, they have the resources to cut up a brand new tire, and can't
You
afford
mean
that.
to tell me Dunlop's not giving you guys tires for free?
No, we definitely had to swipe a credit card. And
Come on, Dunlop. This is one of the only two-strokes out there. Actually, there's a few two-strokes that
He's a
are
record
on.
holder though, Johnny. He's literally got the record. He's the last guy to qualify for a Supercross. He's a legend. Come on.
What's funny to me is that post you put up, Jared, of you and Burkeen. I don't know who made the post, but it was like Supercross mains 2, him 0, his throttle half, your throttle wide open. I don't know who made that meme, but that was hilarious. So
Yeah,
I hope you guys get together out there and have a good little battle, that'd be really cool to see.
Yeah, that blew up. I was sitting there and I was like thinking about it. I was like, how's there a way to like we kind of like stir the pot and get some attention going or whatever? So I posted it. And it definitely blew up. Like a lot of people like reacted to it, which is good. I mean, we haven't rode since Salt Lake and really haven't done anything on social. So I wanted to try and get something going and stuff like that. And Burkeen's a good sport about it. And
Any brake checking in mind, Jared? You know, see him on the track.
I don't know what tomorrow's gonna tell, buddy. I don't know. The gate
You guys are
drops, I
both
don't
on
know what's gonna
Yamahas.
happen.
Come on.
We're going racing though.
yeah.
Well,
What? Go ahead.
go for it, Derek. Go for it.
I was gonna say, the outdoors is a sufferfest. So it's obviously why it's not a part of your full 12-round program, especially with what it costs to just travel across this country to hit all these rounds. And then the bike, I mean, it's probably 5 times harder on the bike than Supercross is with both the time and the long motos and whatnot. But do you think with this new Super Motocross series, how it's come in, I honestly still don't really understand. I haven't read through it enough how it fully works. So if that continues to grow and if they continue to heavy load the purse to where like if you are in that series, is that something that you'd like to make a run at? Because it sounds like what they're trying to do is prevent people go from world Supercross. They're trying to prevent that and make people stay for both series so that they have to race both to be in the points. Would you, I mean, obviously you're doing the 2-stroke this year, but let's say things picked up, that purse is pretty good. Maybe would you consider for next season, if to do the whole series, if you could do that consistently, if you could put it in 450 mains consistently, is that something that's on your radar for next season?
Possibly, yeah. I feel like if the season was going good enough, I mean, why not? You know what I mean? I feel like it's kind of one of those things where, I mean, it's brand new and I feel like everybody's stoked on it. Everybody's stoked to kind of see how it pans out. This is obviously the first season that they're going to do it. I only feel like it's going to get better and almost more popular in a sense. And then obviously, like, how many 2-strokes are you going to have out there or qualifying for this thing to be able to do all the rounds or to be there at the end? So, yeah, I think so. If it makes sense and we have the support to do it, absolutely, yeah.
What about World Supercross? Is there any opportunities? I know that the teams have to provide the slot. It's kind of a different business model. But
Right.
have you made any calls or reached out and seen if there's any opportunities in World Supercross to put a 2-stroke out there? I think with the talent pool that is going, which is very heavy talent, you still would have a very good shot at putting it in those mains.
Yeah, we haven't spoke to anybody about it. We've been asked about it, by just different people, but if we're going to be doing it or if we're involved in it or whatever, but no, we haven't spoke to anybody about it. And it'd be interesting to see though.
I think that'd be good for you.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to. I don't know if it would change like World Supercross, like the format later, but because like right now it's kind of like F1, like the structure where they have like, I don't know, was it like 10 teams or something like that, and 4 riders per like team or something. If they opened it up to where like they had more teams involved and you still had to like you go there and you still have to qualify in, so like not everybody's in the show kind of thing. So you still have to qualify in. So like open it up a little bit more so there could be a smaller like group that puts a team together that can go do it. Because like right now it's all like the main teams or like a sub team from them. So it's like club in Mexico to do it, and then like, but I think it's like Pipes Motorsports, which is like HEP. So I mean, it's all those teams pretty much like fielding a World Supercross branch of their own team. But if there was like a team that would grab a couple privateers, that would be.
I know they have an
Sweet.
exemption for like each race. The promoter has a couple exemptions. Maybe
Yeah, there are two, I think.
maybe there's some
two
feelers we
wild
could
cards.
throw out there off the show or something like that. But next question: have you been watching the outdoors at all?
Yeah.
So for like you do a lot of training on your, like that's a huge part of what keeps you afloat and puts food on your table, is a lot of the training that you do in schools and stuff around your area. What have you seen this year? Like, what are some takeaways from some of the guys, in your opinion, that you're able to coach to some of your guys? Like, what are you seeing out there?
Man, it's really hard to keep talking about, just because it's like one of those things where everybody talks about it, but like watching Jet on the bike is pretty unbelievable. And just to be able to see him do that on a 450 just right away. Obviously the kid's super talented, but the way that he rides and manipulates the bike, through bumps, over jumps, through the corners, the way he stands up through certain sections. It's really hard. Like him, obviously Sexton. I mean, really those two are like the top, I would say the top two that we really kind of graph off of in a sense. Just because they're really like, I mean, in my eyes and obviously a lot of other people's eyes, like they have really, really good form the way they ride the bike. There's a lot of other people that can go out there and probably go just as fast. Maybe not a lot, but there's definitely guys that can go out there and go just as fast with different style, different form. But teaching kids or trying to implicate that into their program, it's the best scenario for them to see somebody that's riding so perfectly. I don't really know if that makes sense, but like if you try to teach them, like for example, Tomac, like the dude's a bulldog in comparison to like somebody like Sexton. Yeah, Tomac will jump through the bumps and he's a little bit methodical, but like you watch Sexton or Jet through a rough section compared to Tomac, you know, there's going to be a little bit more of a, you know, light on their toes approach. As to Tomac, he's going to more so charge to the section because he's very fit, strong. All these guys are, but more or less Tomac is that, he's that guy. But you, in a sense, you want to teach these kids how to ride the bike perfectly, just because you want to prevent the injuries too. And not saying that Tomac's going to get hurt more than those other guys. You've obviously seen Sexton hit the ground how many times throughout the years in the 450 class and throughout his career, but man, it's going to happen. Like going that fast, it's going to happen to any of these guys. It's going to happen. So, but yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest thing. Just trying to teach these kids how to ride the bike when it does, like teaching these kids what the bike does when it does it, and learning, you know, how to correct that or how to prevent it in the future, depending on, you know, what that situation is.
Have you taken anything away from those guys form wise? So are you watching and learning still and growing? Because I think, what are you, 27?
Yep. 27.
Are you probably riding as good or better than ever, at least in Supercross?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say right now for me is probably, I mean, this is probably the best situation that I've been in, or you know, the best season that we've had, you know, so I would say I'm, you know, pretty peaked right now in a sense. Took me a lot longer than a lot of guys, but yeah, we came around it. But yeah, to your, you know, to your question, I think, yeah, teaching different things like Rhino, for example. Man, the dude does have some outlandish stuff to say, but there's a lot of takeaways from what he teaches. The way he teaches to unlock his hips. That's really big. You know, if you're not unlocking your hips in this day and age, you know, as one of these kids growing up at a young age, it's really hard for them to ride the bike efficiently. It's really hard for them to keep up with the top tier of the sport. A lot of these guys are living in a facility these days. So, yeah, it's tough keeping up with that, but we do our best.
So I know, Michael, I told you guys that you guys need to go get some stuff done with working on the motorcycle. So we will let you go, and thank you for being on the show. I do want to ask you one.
Can I share?
We'll ask two 2 questions here.
Yeah, we don't have a crazy time crunch, but
Here, my own controversial question that I want to ask you guys is, there's been a lot of talk about privateers having potentially, maybe it's worded wrong, but kind of an advantage because their frame and suspension are softer than some of the big factors. All right, I don't even need to answer the question, but if you want to respond, you can.
we just went stiffer. We just put on stiff suspension this morning. So
Yeah, I'm running my Supercross setup.
no, we didn't go that crazy, but we got the first set of outdoor stuff. It was too soft, so I bolted up some fresh stuff that we got in on Wednesday morning, right before we left, and it's considerably stiffer. So I don't really buy into the excuse. I don't know if it's just a way to divert like the reasoning of what happened or anything, but I don't. I mean, I feel like
100%, 100%. If I wanted to say something, it's totally to control a narrative of guys that are making good money to guys that are making crappy money.
Those factory guys can come off the track with suspension, not like it, and they can pull it all off, go back to the rig, and they have a guy who's on salary in the rig to rebuild that suspension however they want it. So I don't know. It's a grasp to try and blame it all on that. I mean, Masterpool just put it to him. I don't know why they just can't accept the fact that
Yeah, it was a badass ride.
they just got smoked.
It's a badass ride, dude. That's all it was.
Fair.
So-
Cooksey,
okay.
what were you gonna say?
Sorry, I was just gonna reiterate. I got a chuckle from somebody in the chat room. They said, Michael, you look a little bit like Silent Bob, and then Lesher, you look a little bit like Jay. If you guys ever did that like in a costume, you guys would totally be Silent Bob and Jay. So I could see that.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't do that much.
Oh my God, you've never seen Clerks? Oh,
No, never heard of it.
okay. You guys need to look up Clerks, Silent Bob and Jay, and you guys can be
That
them for
video up.
Halloween very easily.
Yeah, you all should watch that
Okay.
video tonight. It's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, we'll do that.
Can't wait.
Good deal.
No, I was
Um,
trying to pull up a photo.
Okay. So Jared, last thing, when you get to the Nationals, obviously it's it's nice to have Michael on hand and whatnot. So
I don't
Michael,
know-
for you, yeah.
Oh God, we're missing the hair though.
we
Yeah,
are.
as I say, you guys need some wigs.
Yeah, you guys
You're
just
it.
need wigs. Just need wigs.
Dang.
I say you show up to an outdoor like that. Y'all should show up to an
Oh,
outdoor
man.
like that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But no, I appreciate you guys being good sports about Cooksey being an asshole by doing stuff. No,
Oh, yeah.
it's a chat room, so we'll let him be.
for sure. But I want to say, hey guys, best of luck. Go kick some factory guys' ass, because the only thing that would hurt worse than getting passed by a privateer is getting passed by a privateer that is on a 2-stroke. That's like having an 85 swig around you, at the local track.
Hey,
Okay.
I guarantee you every time you're around a 450 and Supercross or outdoors, those guys are giving you their best because they do not want to get beat by a guy
They
on a
don't,
two-stroke.
dude, they don't. They don't. They're all really good sports about it. Or, most of them have been. But yeah, for sure they don't want to get passed by that thing. They hear it coming. They don't want to. If you're on a 450, I mean, realistically, it's like, man, yeah, you don't want to get passed by it.
You can see the guy's body language change when
Absolutely. It's like they start riding as soon as I get behind, and it's not even like I don't even remember who it was, but they told me they're like you can hear it behind you, but it's real weird. Like you sound a lot closer than you are.
Yeah, the
Like,
perception
hey, man,
is it
hey,
seems
whatever
like
it is.
Yeah, it seems
Dude,
like
it
you're
would be
further away than you
cool
are.
to see like the heart rate monitor of the guy that's all riding. He's doing like 160. Then you catch him. Then all of a sudden he's doing like 190 to try to, keep you behind
right.
him.
No kidding.
Yeah,
that would
but
be
he's
fun.
gonna have a lot of spikes this weekend. If there are 6 2-strokes out there,
Yeah.
hopefully we can get them all into the motos, because that'd be a lot of fun to have some 2-stroke battles out there. I think everybody would. I mean, if Jet takes off, there's really gonna be nothing else to watch. So I think
I hear 2-strokes have flex in their bikes, so you're gonna have a huge advantage this weekend.
Yeah.
Super soft.
overall.
Well, no,
soft,
you guys have no engine braking, so you guys don't even have to slow down for corners.
I just shipped up.
Huge
going down the
advantage.
hills.
yeah, gliding.
Yeah.
Hey, well, is there anybody you want to thank before we let you go?
Absolutely. Jeff at Blood Lubricants. Really want to thank him and also Fathead. And those two stepped up for our 4 rounds. Obviously, we'd like to do more of the outdoors, but hey, with the pay, it's really, really tough to do. It's really tough to travel these things. Supercross makes it more worth it. So, yeah, thanks to them. Thanks to everybody else that's on board. Everybody that's kind of following along with this journey, man. It's been fun. It's been a fun season. Yeah, just keep it rolling.
Yeah, it's been.
We'll pick up one of those 17-year t-shirts too. A little bit of that helps you guys out.
Yeah, we have an FMF shirt now. It's on their website. It's not a drop shirt this time, so it's on their website. It's for the kind of commemorating the 17 years that it took for somebody to get 2-stroke in the main. So it's pretty badass shirt. So that's on the FMF website. You can also find the link. It's Jared's on his Instagram. But yeah, going back to what Jared said too, the amount of people who reached out when we put out a feeler for a sponsor for outdoors was pretty crazy. I think it was like over 80,000 accounts got reached on that post with it being shared, and who knows how many people reached out. A lot of people, like even individuals, wanted to at least do one or whatever. But Jeff and Blood, he reached out within minutes. Like, he saw the post and he's like, I'm in. Like, if I can do all 4, I'm doing all 4. But Luke over there at Fathead, he's going to Redbud and he wanted to be involved in it. So we got a pretty sweet bike coming out for Redbud as well. So that's gonna be awesome. But
you need to do some giveaways of like signed t-shirts of that, since you're the dude to do it.
Yeah, maybe we can. We'll talk Donnie into it for Redbud, because he's that's the FMF 50th anniversary or 50th anniversary of Redbud and FMF for that round. So it's gonna be a big FMF party, and we're gonna bring the smoke, and maybe we can get some extra shirts out there. And
hell yeah! Well, you guys skedaddle. You know, you got gas to mix. Get on out of here.
Yeah, exactly. We appreciate you having us on. Always a pleasure to talk some shit with you guys. And
yeah, and I want to see some brake checks with some 2-strokes and some factory guys. Hey, and the links are in the description for these SOBs. Make sure you go follow them and you help them out.
Silent Bob and Jay attack the Nationals.
Right. Yeah, be on the lookout for us.
Grow our hair out.
So, Derick, I wanted your opinion, since you do a lot of motor building for some privateers. What are you thinking as to why Ty and Harlan and Robin and all these guys are doing better? I mean, are they just taking advantage of the situation because the factory riders have been decimated? Or do you think there might be a turning of the tide happening where these guys have seen one guy do it? So now it's the whole James Stewart took a couple years off and then comes back, and you see Dungeon finally beat him. Now everybody's like, hey, he's not unbeatable anymore. We can actually do it. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think confidence breeds confidence. And when you do well, you're more inclined to do well in the future. And so that's helping these guys out. It's less deep, so obviously that helps them. But when you can sniff that speed, when you're closer to it, and you don't have so many guys you're battling with, I feel like that you're worried about. Like, those guys have separated themselves quite a bit from some of the guys behind them. I think that now they're all crazy talented. Like, as amateurs, I know Harlan from amateur days. We were around when he was coming up, and he was a top amateur. And the same applies to Ty. We had talked about this earlier. I did the Super Mini engines for Ty that won Super Mini 1 and Super Mini 2 in 2017. And then the next year he got his factory star deal from that. These kids are, and I say kids, I mean, they're becoming adults. They're most of them are adults now.
He got a star deal right after.
Yeah. So Loretta's 2017, he wins Super Mini 1, Super Mini 2 was, if you go look it up.
It was on a TM also.
Yeah, on a TM. And so he got his factory star deal from that ride. And it happened very shortly after that. Basically happened at Loretta's. And so he's an elite level athlete that just hasn't panned out. So I think it's a combination of, there's guys who have hope and they're like, hey, I have a little more hope to be up front, which makes you train harder during the week. It's nice getting 6th and 5th and 7th as opposed to getting 12th, 14th and 15th. And then when you're up there and you get to watch that pace and kind of learn from these factory guys, because a lot of these guys don't get to ride with the elite guys during the week. So you don't see the pace, you don't see the little tricks they have. You don't know exactly what you're lacking. When you get to sniff that during the moto, I think it makes a huge difference. And then your starts are better too. I mean, if we're missing, let's say 5 factory guys, you're already placed better off your start. So you're not coming back from 20th trying to just find a factory guy. You're right next to one occasionally. So I think all of those things really help you out. And then bike wise, I mean, I don't disagree with some of what James has to say about the bikes being softer, but why doesn't anybody countering on that? Maybe Weege could have said, well, then if you know that that's the case and you're James Stewart, then why didn't you set your bike up softer? You could just tell your team, hey, I need it to be softer and my bike needs to be more compliant.
Yeah, they have the resources.
Yeah.
And I think that's an oxymoron, right?
Right. They could set it up any way they want. So now, is he wrong? Maybe the factory guys have gone the wrong way. Sure. Maybe they're doing it wrong. But then again, on the flip side, that's on you as the athlete to need to tell the team what direction you need to go. I also think that, like, here's a question for you guys. I know I've watched the Lawrences closely. I've actually gotten the chance to speak with their dad. Just luckily, he's an incredibly nice and open guy. I was shocked how much he was willing to talk. I kind of feel like their bike setups are very well balanced. If you watch the front and the back, they're not super, super stiff. I actually think the Lawrence brothers bikes are more like kind of like Kenny used to set up his bike, which is more compliant than some of the other factory guys. So my question for you guys is, if that is the case, if their bike is that way, why aren't more of the factory guys saying, hey, maybe we need to figure out how to make their way work for the rider? The rider is trying to build the bike to him. I always say sometimes you need to build the bike so the bike works best, and then you need to fit yourself around the bike. Meaning sometimes certain chassis just don't work well when you drop the back or if you pick up the back. Certain chassis just don't like certain things.
What you said is I would say go completely the opposite. We need that rider to feel comfortable before he can go fast. If you build a bike based on what an engineer says, that's what they do when they make it stiff with the hubs. And like James wasn't completely wrong. They absolutely do everything they can to stiffen these chassis, and it's just the way they've always done it, and that's why they still do it. But I was talking to somebody close to the teams, and he was like, I don't know why they still do this. If you look at the GPs, those guys run different chassis for sand and hard packed, and they offer different flexes. Yet over here, these teams are so ignorant. They're just trying to do one and make it work. But
is it the homologation rule, do you think?
No, because if it's a homologation rule, then a privateer wouldn't be able to make it work. It has to do with the titanium axles, titanium bolts, all these things. The stiffer rims, every little thing you do to the bike beefs it up. The triple clamps, these are all things that can be changed, and they choose.
Yeah. I see. I don't know if I agree. I'll give you a good example. And back in 2014, the new Yamaha 450 came out. So it was already a reverse motor, but then they redesigned the chassis in 14 for the 250, 450. And in our testing, we do suspension and chassis stuff here at the shop too. We've done it for years. That's actually how I started my business, was suspension first, and then I always was interested in engine technology. So that's how how I've grown into that. But we found on that old Yamaha that we had to pull the forks up and lower the front. We had to stink bug the bike. It was running 95, 98 mils of sag. And it was the weirdest thing to do that, but it solved the problems we had encountered with it. We had a really fast kid at the time out of Texas named Chris Morris. And so he was super, super awesome. And we were testing and testing and testing. And until I found that kind of setup, it was opposite of what I wanted. Right. Because I wanted to, he was like, man, the back's a little stink bug. Can we go lower and lower and lower and lower? And the front's a little, stiffer and stiffer and taller and longer. But the bike got worse. So when we finally honed in on, okay, we need to run 95 to 98 mils of sag. We need to pull the forks up to 10 mils inside the clamps. And all of a sudden, all of the problems that we had went away. And then the only problem we had was, it feels a little stink bug. I don't like the way it feels when I sit on the bike, but I love the way it works on the track. And so it's one of those hey, that's where you have to just make what we have work, because no matter what I tried. And then the irony being, all the magazines were going through that. Oh, it's stink bug, blah, 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 blah. All the test riders are saying that. Ironically, the new Yamaha and what most test riders ended up setting up the previous Yamaha on, this new 450 and then the previous gen, if you listen to the test riders, oh yeah, pull the forks up if you get instability. Oh yeah, don't run so much sag, which is what we had figured out way back. It was a nice secret for my shop and my guys for quite a while, because everybody else was going the wrong way. And I lucked into it. I just was let me throw more darts at the dartboard. But that's how I feel some of these riders, it's and I'll give you an example. I know Braswell as well. He loves a low rear with a crazy stiff front end, period. I don't care what color bike he rides. But sometimes you start sacrificing in other areas of the track just to make that feel happy. And I wish, if it were me this offseason with them, I'd say, look, we need to find a way to make you ride the bike more of the other guys are riding. You know what I mean? More balance, a little bit taller in the rear, a little bit less front stiff. That's just my opinion on sometimes the rider is more adaptable than the bike is. Some things just don't work on the bike. That's just my opinion.
Well, Derick, I know the chat room's talking a lot about what James Stewart said, and maybe I'm going to be devil's advocate here because we just had Lesher and his mechanic Michael on board here. Perhaps maybe it's a little bit of a cognitive bias where you have a rider who really when he turned pro, never really ever raced a privateer machine. He always had factory level support to stuff. And then the privateers, they haven't really had a chance to have the resources of the factory. So they don't really know all the inner workings, kind of like myself, where you can try to fill in the blanks. So I think there might be just a misconception here where they're filling in the blanks, where guys that are mainly privateers are going, oh no, they have countless resources to make this just an easy fix. And then the factory guys are going, well, no, they don't have like anything. So they're just working with what they have. So therefore it just works a little bit better. And last, I just wanted to show, because these are the screenshots that Michael just sent me, because he was talking about trying to keep that 250 cool. And so he's literally mounted a DeWalt battery for the fans that are going to run it almost like a little computer fan for your CPU. And I thought, man, what kind of engineering is that? That's freaking awesome. And Michael does a great job with his toolboxes and everything. I had to share right there.
That's awesome. He needs to get his own batteries made, patent that, and that's a new kit for two strokes.
Yeah, this
Absolutely.
is really cool. He's really talented at putting concepts into action. He's really, really good at that. Something we had like a discussion on maybe, I don't know, a couple months ago. And to see his final product on that is really, really nice. He's done a really good job. So Cooksey, do you think, here's a question for you. Let's say that we have, it's a hypothetical, but not really. Like, I think we see this in reality. I think the Lawrence brothers are willing to set the bike up in a way that it's the best over the course of 35 minutes, meaning that that's a focus of their testing, not just let's go do 2, 3, 4 lap sprints. Let's see what setup works over 35 minutes. What gives me the best average lap time? And as a byproduct of that, they might have a bike that's not optimized for sprints, but they can win races. And then on the flip side, you have some of these pros who really are optimizing for speed. Let's go do a couple short, sprint laps. And then of course, a lot of these teams, that's what they like at the Star compound. It just looks to me to be like chase moto after chase moto after chase moto.
Well, that's qualifying.
Right. That's qualifying. So you have a bias in each way. Like Justin Cooper is obviously super talented, been fast since he came out of amateurs, been always fast. But do you think possibly that's the difference for him? Do you think possibly his bike is a little bit biased towards qualifying and the Lawrence brothers bikes are a little bit more biased towards the main, towards the...
Yeah. And what we had talked about earlier about the teams setting up the bikes, the Lawrences have enough juice over there to say, hey, if we need this changed, we want this. They can go out to the practice track and they recognize, okay, this track's smooth. It's probably not going to be like this. I feel like they're just one step ahead of everybody, and it shows on the track, and that's why they're where they're at. So yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I think they're thinking through every scenario and they're getting it before time, but we'll see. But what did you think? I think the KTMs, I think they look horrible, man. AP and Webb, I don't know what they're doing over there, but they look like they're going the wrong direction. What do you think about that?
I've thought for a while, and I don't mean this, I don't know. I'm not involved in the team or plugged in on anybody on that program. To me, like when they first came out last year and they're hitting the whoops, and even this year in Supercross, their rebounds were so slow on the bikes. Like if you watched, they just didn't rebound. And if you watch Tomac's bike and the Lawrence brothers bikes, they have the fastest rebound. Like from my perspective, we slow-mo a lot of this stuff. And it's so easy to see on video. You can watch what the rear tire does after it leaves a jump. You literally don't need to know anything about valving or suspension specifics or anything spectacular. It's the simplest thing ever. When it goes from full compression to extension, watch how fast that happens. The Lawrence brothers and Tomac in particular run a crazy fast shock rebound, and they do outdoors too. And I think a lot of the really good outdoor guys have run that. And when I watch the KTMs, they've always been slower in the rear, especially last year. Like to me in the whoops, the back of the bike looked dead to me. And I still think this year, I think whatever the direction is on the team, that like whoever guides that direction, or maybe it's a chassis, maybe it's the bike, maybe they go the other way and things get worse. I don't know, but I agree with you. To me, the bike just doesn't look like it stays planted on the ground, driving forward as much as, for example, the Hondas currently do, the Honda, the Jets currently have, and the other bikes, right? Like it looks like all this, the hate on the cow. We only have Cincinnati out there this year, but the bike looks pretty good. Granted, he's not pushing it super hard. And we're going to see with Kenny this weekend. I mean, that's actually a great point. I guess he's coming out and racing. That's correct, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He likes a fast, active bike. He always has, in a fairly soft setup. I think we're going to see his bike look really good this weekend, especially now that he's got kind of his finger on. He's got full direction, which can be good and bad. But I think he's got his finger on what he likes, what he wants. I think that's the way to go. And I just feel like KTM Husky Group have not done that over the years. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
No, a light bulb went off when you said that about the rebound, because I'm like, Christian Craig has never ever had a problem with whoop-de-doos, and he couldn't get through them this year. And I was thinking back, I'm like, gosh, you know what? It did kind of. I mean, he dislocated his hip in the whoops. How un-Christian Craig is that? I'm like, it's shocking to me that you nailed it with the rebound. I'm like, that might actually fix the problem. So.
Yeah, I agree. And same with Malcolm. You take two of the best guys in the whoops historically. And then now, like Malcolm, he didn't crash in them, but he was what I would call just average. He wasn't the Malcolm of old through the whoops where he was just light years better than everybody. So I'm not throwing shade on the team.
I know, but I was always kind of talked with my guys at Factory Connection that through the whoops, you wanted it to be fairly slow because you wanted the sucker to pack. So it was hit each little whoop and it wouldn't be rebounded enough on you so that you could stay on top of them. And I'll
challenge you on this one, Johnny, to go to a track, take your iPhone out now that we have insane technology in our pockets, slow-mo version, right? Like use the high-speed camera, 120 frames, and go watch bikes through the bumps. So just slow-mo them and then go replay them and go do it through whoops. And they do it in Supercross now with the TV coverage. Occasionally you get to see the ultra slow-mo, but the bikes, the rebound never kicks you over the bars. And it's just a misconception. If you watch bumps, even in especially amateur bikes, a lot of them are too slow. They'll hit a bump. And then when you watch in slow-mo, the rear tire has not had time to recover. Like it doesn't stay on the ground and it's never a fast enough rebound to get back. Now there's a lot more I won't get into on like the plantedness field, but if you go take your bike, even with a very fast rebound setup and you jump it off a 5-foot cliff, you'll bottom. And then does it kick you over the bars? No, it doesn't. Does the rear tire even leave the ground? No, it doesn't. There's not enough force remaining within that spring to throw you over the bars. So it's my personal opinion that
I appreciate it. You know, that's why we have guys on here. I've done a lot of analysis on the crash stuff, and I can guarantee I can go back that most of we're talking about Stewart and we're talking about Craig. How they crashed was either their front end missed a whoop or their ass end missed one of the whoops. And what you're saying, if that rear wheel does not see, this is one of those things where you can have a bias until you're presented with new information. And once you have new information, well, then you potentially maybe have to have the ability to change your outlook. But there have been a few cases on some of the crashes that I've gone back to where that ass end does miss one of the whoops, and then then they fall into the very bottom of it. And then it doesn't matter what kind of suspension setup you have from there. If you're at the bottom of a 5-foot whoop, you're going to get something. But could that have been prevented if that ass end was a little bit faster and he would have never even missed?
Johnny, let me run this past you. Once that packs up, it gives you a different bounce from whoop to whoop. Where Tomac, if it's fast, you're getting whatever you're getting, he knows the exact kick it's getting each whoop.
Yeah, if you start packing too much, then it's like of course it's squeezing a spring.
Then you're getting off balance, possibly miss a whoop with the front or the rear.
Right. Now that I've said it, really go back and watch the Supercrosses, watch Tomac's bike, watch the Lawrence brothers bikes, watch I think even Chase's bike. Like to me, those guys had their suspension pretty dialed this year. And really watch Tomac's. You'll be shocked when he leaves a jump. And if you really slow-mo it, you'll see it's pretty much full travel in the shock off, close to full travel in the shock off any jump face. It's because they're using so much energy. Watch how quickly that rear tire is extended. And you'll be like, man, I almost can't even tell the separation. Like he leaves a jump and the tire's out. You don't see it. Go watch some of the privateer bikes and watch some of the KTMs, especially early in the year. And you'll be like, holy crap, it took halfway from this jump to the next jump for that tire to come out. Or same with the whoops, his tire hits a whoop and it's extended, which helps drive the front of the bike. Like there's a little bit of a reactionary force, the weight of the wheel and some percentage of the swing arm. As it's extending out, that's what's forcing your bike forward, but it's not very heavy, right? It's not like a heavy wheel and a heavy swing arm compared to the weight of you and the bike. So it's not throwing the bike forward, but by having that rear tire extend, it does help drive the front tire into the next whoop and not miss it a little bit easier. And then the faster you go through whoops, the more important that becomes, right? Because you need the recovery to happen more quickly. So that's just kind of how I view it. But I would say go back and watch, and you'll be shocked. Like when I really started cluing in on this, maybe last year when Tomac went to Yamaha, I'm like, holy crap, he's got a fast rebound compared to his competition. And also his Supercross bike, he's the only Yamaha guy doing this. I don't even think him and Dylan are on the same components. When you look at the bikes, they're different. But like Tomac's forks have like the first 4 inches are like really cushy, which is weird for a Supercross bike, but they're really cushy. And I've never seen a bike like that. I've never seen a bike that's so cushy for Supercross, but it's almost like he's honed in on something.
I thought he was having almost, hey, human, appreciate the subscription. Because we saw him lose his hands on the handlebars a few times in Supercross. And to me, that is like you're hitting a hard part in the forks to jar your hands off.
Right. So I think he runs, the only way I could come up with how his forks work if I were to mechanically try to make it from my end, because normally like valving is not position sensitive, what most people think it is. It's literally just speed sensitive. So that's how all valving works.
What do you mean by that? By somebody that's
so
a
like
dumbass?
If you jump into water and you're in the 2 foot deep section and you're just on the side of it, you're going to your feet are going to go through and hit the bottom of the pool, right? Almost no resistance. That's because you hit the water with no speed. Now go up to a 10 foot or 20 foot platform and jump into the water. You might go down 5 or 6 feet, but you're going to smack it pretty hard. That is a velocity sensitive type reaction. So the faster you hit a fluid, the more resistance it provides to you. So like in your suspension, they're way past the days of like holes determining how much fluid flow goes through. Now they have shim stacks and things that control the size of the hole based upon velocity. But essentially, if you plot suspension damping versus velocity, it looks like a straight linear line. It does not ramp up X squared. It's just a straight linear line. So when you hit a bump at, let's just make up numbers, at 1, you're going to get 1 damping. When you hit a bump at 2, you're going to get 2 damping. Now you can change that curve shape. So like instead of being a slope of 1, which would be 1x, you could make it 2x or 3x or half x. That's what valving does. But then where does a position sensitivity come in? So that's your oil height. And then a little bit your springs. Your springs are position sensitive, right? Meaning like, okay, the harder and farther I compress them, the more I get out of my spring. So like the only way Tomac could have the top of his stroke look noticeably different than the later parts is I think they're running like a twin spring setup, like a really soft spring stacked on top of a stiffer spring. So it gives that initial like very softness. And then they may be running, like in trophy trucks, they have what's called bypass.
So what you're
shocks.
saying is it's literally a hybrid spring where half of it is made of
stiff and soft,
stiffer, and then the
could it be just a progressive spring?
Well, that would be that's the same exact thing, but a stacked spring combination is more tunable and a wider range. So it works out the same way, but you could do stacked springs and get better results. So trophy trucks have done this forever. Go look at trophy trucks. They have 2 springs stacked on each other. They have independent preload on each spring. So you can tension each spring like between rings, and then you end up with whatever progressive rate you want. But that's correct. It's like a progressive spring, but also like, let's say his damping's that way too. Now that's really hard to do because damping normally is just speed sensitive. So how could they make, let's say, the first 3 or 4 inches of his stroke potentially considerably different damping than later in the stroke? And so trophy trucks do what's called bypass damping. And like, imagine if you had your shock adjuster, but you were able to put them in different portions of your shock. They had these little tubes that go around. So like they can isolate.
Progressive dampening then, essentially.
Not damping. It's not progressive. It's position sensitive. So like a trophy truck says, hey, the first 4 inches are this damping rate. The middle 4 inches, now they have like 4 feet of travel, but there's a different damping rate. Like they have different shim stacks for different parts of the stroke, but they do it externally on the shock. So like you can see it very clearly. Maybe you could Google like a King trophy truck shock real quick, and we can pull it up in the picture real quick. But how you would do that in a fork, to me, I don't have any clue, because you have packaging constraints. Like you have a problem being able to package that. But if they have come up with some form of bypass damping, I would say that's super innovative. I think it's working for him in Supercross, because I feel like one of the challenges of Supercross that you see the KTM struggle with is the front
They're only
end doesn't dive.
$7,000. They're only $7,000.
So see those little tubes on the outside? Each one of those tubes is a different circuit for a different portion of the stroke.
Okay, I have to talk for a little bit for it to pop up on my screen, just the way the Zoom is here. But Derick is talking about this, and then these little guys that are all up on there. Huh? That's crazy that they've got that many different canisters.
And it's infinite. Like you could put 50 of them if you wanted and have it different for every inch of the stroke. So like that's how they've done it. I think they're
I've
doing
never
that.
noticed that, because you could literally see like, hey, they're positioned in different spots.
Correct.
Too, to give
Right.
it just like what you're saying.
Right. So none of this stuff would be new, but it would be innovative and applied if it was applied in moto. And I really think they've done something like that. I don't know how they've done it, but when you watch those forks, it's like they've solved some challenges of a supercross bike. The front end dives so he can corner. Like he actually has some compliancy on those little tiny chatter bumps that they get into turns. Whereas you watch the KTMs, those things are so stiff in the front end. And I feel like so was Anderson's bike this year. Man, his front end was stiff compared to
Derick,
Tomac's.
let me ask you this. Do you think that this at all contribute to having that front end be a little bit too soft? And maybe they're doing that with the rear shock then too. And maybe could potentially have this have caused his Achilles tendon to break, where it's real soft, and then to now his feet go down even further because they're absorbing because of how soft that first initial few inches are. And then he hits the real hard stroke,
Yes.
but he's already gone further than where he would normally have gone.
Right. So if you think of damping as an energy management system, the best analogy I can ever give anybody is if I were to throw an egg to you and say, don't break it, catch it, please. All right. So if I threw it to you slow, that'd be pretty easy. You could catch the egg and it wouldn't be hard not to break. But the faster I throw that egg, the harder it becomes to catch it and not break it. And that's what suspension is trying to do, is we need to create a suspension setup that can both take the slow throw of the egg and take the fast throw of the egg. So not bottom, not break the egg, but at the same time, not feel stiff when it's a slow throw or, too soft on a fast throw. That's the challenge of suspension. Suspension is managing 12 inches of travel. So we have 12 inches no matter what we do to the bike. So that means that if I have a 13-inch bump, no matter what I do, the tire will leave the ground. I cannot absorb it. It's physically impossible. And then how do we maximize that over a big jump? So when Tomac landed that jump, he slightly overjumped, if I remember right, which is actually something that he's done all year long. Like you had done a video on that about like, hey, his factory level suspension, look at this overjump, look at how he can just face this next jump. And that's true. He's also just a beast. I think if you put an average 10th place guy out there and you put them in that scenario, they just collapse on that next face. Like they don't have the strength that he has. And I don't mean to talk down on those guys. I just think Tomac's a freak of nature when it comes to overall strength. But those are the things that, so yeah, he might have had by making that compromise in suspension, the top 4 inches of travel and his forks being a little bit softer means that the next 8 inches have to be way stiffer to manage that energy that you've not damped out yet. So it might have been a contributing factor. The fact that he overjumped, the fact that he was on the balls of the seat, which he really should be, but in that instance, maybe not. And then, he's old, unfortunately. Like that's why I think we've seen people retire before he did. His body is not 25, so that was just an unfortunate, very
the average
sad deal.
retirement of superstars has been around 26, but there is a changing of the guard with a bunch of guys being over 30. I know we're getting close to exiting the show, so I did want to ask both of you guys one last question as far as how do you think Roczen is going to do? Do you think he's going to win? Do you think he's going to lead some laps? Do you think he's going to get on the podium? Do you think he's just going to ride around in 10th place? Cooksey, what are you thinking?
I'm going Ken Roxon's going to win the first moto, and then he's going to get 5th in the second moto because he's going to mail it in, and he's got nothing to fight for after that. I think he's going there to stop Jet, and I think once he's done that, it's mission accomplished and get his gate drops.
Wow,
Interesting.
There's a prediction. I think you got a screw loose in there if you think he's going to.
I'm trying to get him to win my bet.
See, I don't want you to do that. Derick, your thoughts?
Man, actually, if you really think about it, Cooksey may not be off on this. If Roczen said, I'm not racing Moto 2, I'm just going to use all my energy in Moto 1, we have seen him have that first lap raw speed that very few people have. Like he's probably the best I've ever seen at it. Maybe Jets is good. So we know he's going to be good on lap 1. And then the question is, can he hold it for 35? But if he's like, hey, this is my only round, I'm fresh and healthy from Supercross, I don't really need to go out and do Moto 2. Like, I don't care if I win. Maybe he goes into the red zone, leaves it all out on the table and says, hey, I want to make sure that the young buck knows that I'm still here to play. So I wouldn't put it past Kenny. I don't know if I'm going to make that prediction. I'm not as so strong predicted here as Chris, but I will say that if there's anybody in the world other than Tomac who could do it, or Hurlings potentially, I think Kenny has the speed and the talent. So it'll, if he's out front, I agree. He could do it.
Well, and let's not forget, like, Jet doesn't suck at High Point, but that's definitely not his best track ever. So
I agree with that too. He's definitely not, like, Hunter really, I felt like kind of had his number last year there. And same with, was it Kitchen who battled, or was it Cooper last year?
I think it was Cooper.
Yeah, that was an awesome race.
No, but I feel like, yeah, we all know that Kenny is an amazing motocross rider. You know, that's where he excelled first. And he was the last guy to win on a Suzuki, at least a full-blown championship. I believe it was like 2016, 2017. But I digress. He's signed a 3-year deal with World Supercross. Like, he's not going to jeopardize July 1st of his first race for something like this. I don't think he's going to go for broke. I think he's going to go out there. He's going to get the whole shot so that he gets out front, gets away from all the nasty mess. And then if Jet passes him, he's going to let him pass him. And I think he's got an 80% ability to, what I mean by that is he's going to ride at about 80%. And I think he could still finish second. So I'm going to say Tomac, or not Tomac, Roxon goes 2-2. Whole shot, at least one race, and goes 2-2.
Do you think that, so if with your like logic and reasoning, which I can't argue with, it's excellent, why even show up?
See, I made a video about this as well. And I think Cooksey, we've talked a little bit off air about some things too. Personally, I wouldn't put it past, potentially, guys, this is speculation, that the series might be going, hey, do you want a little bit extra something to come race? Because the series is in dire need of having some sort of drama or some more racing action, because you can't really sell Peacock subscriptions if you know one dude's going to win every moto, right? You need to have some hype in there. And it's all over. It is all over, like the emails that I am getting. You've got Roxon all over everything. Like, there's a massive promotion going on.
How much money does it take from them to get him to come out? Number one. And number two, I agree with you, because I think they paid Dungy and I think they paid Caroli last year to try and bring some relevance.
I mean, I've asked, and Davey Coombs has told me no. So I have to go off of what he tells me as fact.
Do we really, Johnny? Because he's not. Sorry.
No, yes, we do. I mean, you got to give the person for the benefit of the doubt. But however, you do have to speculate a little bit. Like, why the fuck would somebody tell Hopper the real thing? Because it's like, what do you think I'm going to do with the information? I'm probably going to run to the influence that I have and tell everybody who's getting paid what, right? You know, I'm the guy that brought up the whole pay of the privateer stuff way, I don't know, 3 years ago, and created a huge old.
So I think they're getting paid. There's no way he comes up off the couch to go out and suffer for 35 minutes at least once.
Yeah.
And also, like you said,
for a second place moto, like,
and
seriously,
risk his July 1st. I mean, I totally agree with you. Why would you do that? So I think there's something in the pot that's being sweetened, like something there is on the table, but yeah.
I mean, I almost feel like that's why Cooper Webb is off, right? Why he decided, because the way he's riding, you know, just how we had Lesher on here, we were talking about how those guys literally, when they see a two-stroke behind them, they're going to try harder. Look at AP. He got his ass passed by Ty, and then once he figured out it was freaking Ty, he rode till he was broke to get back around him, and then brake checked him, right?
What did James say a little bit on that? Like the factory card or whatever. I love James on that. How do you guys feel about James on the telecast? Did we talk about that?
Love him.
Truthfully, yeah, I love him, right? You know,
he said get that factory card back. I love that. That's, you know, that last lap pass from Ferrandis was that factory card. That's Ferrandis saying, "Whoa, man, I better not be behind this privateer."
Do you want to have to go back to the trailer and explain that dude over there with super cuts on his graphics just passed me and walked away towards the end of a moto? It's one thing to get beat by him, but it's another to get beat by him when he was down in the first turn, like AP almost did. Like, dear Lord. But I do think it's ironic that nobody even talked about that. You know, they said Ty's in last place. I mean, it was actually Bubba that actually was, hey, Ty's down in the first corner. But they never once then was like, hey, Ty was down in the first corner. He was 40th. Now he's 5th.
He rode unreal. He rode unreal. I guess the question, I think here's what, would you give Ty a ride or a fill-in ride? Like Howie's got a bike.
Oh, hell yeah. Based off of just that deal right then and there. Oh,
so
hell yeah.
so what do you think's happened with Ty? You know, we did some stuff for him. What do you think's happened? I know them, but I don't know what's happened.
Something's going on with the master pools. When somebody goes through that many teams and you hear these wild rumors, some of them are rumors and some of them are true, but something's going on. With that said, I still like the master pools. I love their kind of championing safety and building safer tracks and the different stuff they do. I would give him a ride, but I understand why people are scared not to give him a ride because of all the rumors that are out there.
So here's a question.
You're telling me if I'm reading into this, sorry, Derick, I apologize for interrupting you. I mean, because Ty literally, I remember watching him almost every time he's at Redbud and he was on a Star Yamaha, he was out front, you know, winning the 250 Pro class by a considerable margin, whether it's 5 seconds or whatnot, just being out front doing that. Like the kid knows how to ride a dirt bike, but you are right. If you're on the outside looking in, why couldn't he keep that ride, especially if you have a dude that's able to race up front the majority of the time? So are you saying that potentially is difficult to work with?
I don't know. I know the kid's a hard worker, number one. Like you saw that this weekend. He's fit. There's no doubt. You can't fake fitness. You can't go out there 235s in a row and be strong to the end. So he works hard. He's always been a hard worker in that department. But they obviously have just cycled through so many teams. And I don't know all the ins and outs on that. I'd love to know more. I might call Jerry and we've talked, last year a little bit. But the question I think I have for you guys is, let's just say, I think his issue with some of the teams has been, okay, one flash of brilliance and then hurt. I mean, his rookie year, I don't even think he raced one race, or like the year he should have with Star. I think he was hurt the entire time, hurt Supercross, hurt outdoors. And then he got like 1 or 2 Redbuds in and then was hurt again. So maybe it's just been he has a track record of not being healthy enough that he's had those opportunities. And like, there's no shortage of young kids coming out. Let's just take a kid that's going to be there every weekend. But on the flip side, my question for you guys is, if he goes out and finishes out this outdoor series strong and doesn't get hurt and continues to ride the way he rode, so like very, very good and is up front, beat some factory guys, does the phone ring?
No. It won't, because he hasn't done anything in Supercross. And let's be honest, Supercross, there's been lots of guys who've come out in the outdoors and put it in top 5. I mean, it started with Gavin Graysick back in the day, beating factory guys. It happens outdoors.
Well, look at Freddie Noren. He was actually on a fill-in and he was getting, I believe, like 3rds and 5s. But then comes Supercross around, they're like, nope.
Unless you can duplicate it indoors or at least come close to it. Unfortunately, the answer is no. And Slayer 69 was asking me, I don't like to throw rumors out there. The rumors about the master pool is that the family is a little bit difficult to deal with, that they have some weird demands, that they don't want to be a team player.
He's saying like allegedly.
So, allegedly. So those are the rumors that are out there. Like I said, I don't know how much is true and how much is not, but when you hear that many, typically.
Here's another question for you guys. So Ty is going really fast on the 450, like just period. Lap times, good. Way faster than he could do on the 250, very close to Jet's times. Like that was a fast ride. So his speed potential is there. I understand that you take rides where you take rides, but if you're him and you don't get one, why even go ride 250s ever again? So kind of like the Weston Pike model, which is, all right, I'm just already in the 450 class. I'm already racing the big boys. I'm already where I'm trying to get to over the next couple of years anyway. Do you think you should just do that? And then should that be a model for like some of these privateer 250 guys who are like I had to deal with this with not deal with, but with like Braswell losing the Honda deal at the end of the year, with them not going outdoors. We made some calls and it's like, well, what do you do if you're him? Do you go race 250s as a privateer and go get your teeth kicked in? Or do you go race 450s where frankly, I think he'd be right there along with Ty. He beat him on a 250.
So like all the money. It's easier to maintain a 450. His 5th place finish at Thunder Valley, if you compare that to 5th place in the 250 class, is like damn near finishing 2nd in the 250 class, or potentially even winning it, right? Because I think it's only like $2,000 to win a national in the 250 class, which is just pathetic, right? We're just calling a kettle black. So yeah, absolutely, it's
next question,
more advantageous for him to ride the 450 long term.
Right, Cooksey. you said Loretta's was a weak pro class in a video. And I
did. And I stand by that.
So you don't think the results from Hymas, Ryder D, obviously Deegan wasn't the A class, but to me, and even Hawkins, and then I'm going to put Caden in the mix. He's just getting used to the bike, right? Like he had like 4 days on it when he got to go to TLD. I think those guys, like to me, like Hymas did fantastic. Ryder D is inside the top 10, running fifths, getting good starts, doing what a rookie should do. Realistically, the only guys they're getting beat by are the established guys who climbed their way up the way that these guys are. Meaning,
The
like,
30-year-olds.
okay, yeah.
Do you? What about Cole Martinez? Like,
there's a difference between getting a great start in a 450 class. Because to be honest, that was the 450 class where Cole Martinez and Heath Harrison were on 450s. All these other kids are riding 250s. Loretta's is a long, deep start. And so you rip off a whole shot, and then in the first 3 corners, if you're 10th, you're literally 15 seconds back within 3 turns. Just how rutted it is, how tight, how technical it is, how much it strings out. I mean, Caden was up front and crashed the very first moto that we watched. I don't know if that was 250, 450, but he crashed, came from dead last all the way to like 6th. Didn't get any TV time or any credit from that. So like, to me, that's what earned him the title. Like if you go look, that's literally what earned it.
If you go back and look at years past of riders that finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that class, they go to nationals and are top 10.
All these kids are. Ryder D's top
not.
10.
Well,
Chance Hymas is top 10.
I'm talking like the week after.
Bullshit. Look at Jet Lawrence. Go look at his first national results.
Yeah, he was up in 4th and he pulled over.
No, he got like a 12th and a 15th.
I disagree with you.
No, so I think
that class is weak. If you put Deegan in there, and I agree with the sports change, I still think it was a weak year. It wasn't one of the strongest years in Loretta's, in my opinion. I just don't agree with you. It wasn't that far off, but you had vet riders winning. Like,
yeah, but it's like I'm not disagreeing that the vet riders winning. Like you can't argue that, right? They won. But if you're
Caden Braswell, you got beat by a vet rider
in the 450 class.
Yes.
But he caught in like he had, like, if I remember right, the last moto, I don't remember. It's like he had some crashes, like Ryder D DNF'd with the mechanical. I don't think if you don't have that.
How do you say you're this up and coming pro and you got beat by a guy who in his prime was around 20th? I mean, don't get me wrong, Cole's a bad dude, but he shouldn't beat a guy like at that level. He shouldn't win that class. He shouldn't.
Okay, let's say you're right, but those kids are doing very well this year.
Yes.
Hymas got a 3rd this weekend.
Which I never said he didn't have talent.
No.
I just don't think listen, we're gonna have to agree to disagree.
What
about I think when it's all said and done,
let's pour a little.
When it's all said and done, I just don't think this class is as good as some of the other classes.
So when this class comes out, because this is a genuine question. So in the next 3 years, if Ryder D isn't contending for titles, I'll eat the crow now. He's literally primed and positioned. He's doing well enough. It's very obvious that he will do well. Like he's doing well. He's not quite fit enough. And he said that I can't go 35s. He's young. He grew late. Like if you followed the amateur career, he was the littlest guy ever. So I think he's still developing and adapting. Is he an Adam Cincerillo? Well, no, because AC came out and let the world on fire like right away, but then never won a title forever. So like you had to bet on AC in the long haul anyway. And the same applies to like when we were watching, we talked about this on the other show. It used to be a rookie like a Bogle would come out and instantly go and win a moto. So Bogle came out on the Factory Connection program, comes out pro and beats Dean Wilson like immediately. But nowadays you're racing against established veterans on insanely good off the bike programs. Like, you know, the KTM guys are years and years of building in the Baker's factory, or you have the Star Boys who are years and years. Like you have to beat Justin Cooper. How many years is he a pro now?
No, and I totally agree with you
Jeremy
on that.
Martin and all these guys. They have changed the rules for how long. I have to look at the motocross stuff, but for Supercross at least, they've changed the rules on trying to prevent having Mike Browns in the 250 class long term, which I think could be a result to what both of you are actually saying.
Yeah. No, and Derick, don't think I see what you're saying, but I just don't think it's something we can judge yet. Give me 3 years. In 3 years, if Ryder D and Hymas are both champions, then and Caden Braswell, I'm cheering for Caden. If they're all champions, I will eat my words. But as of right now, I don't think that was one of the strongest. So let's
talk about next year, right? So next year you have Hunter out. You're going to have at least like Cooper probably has to do 450s, right? I mean, he has to do for Supercross.
He's going there either way.
So. Right. So he's out. and Jet's out. So next year, who like if Hymas shows the progression he showed this year, like Supercross was not amazing from him, but at the same time, I don't think it was bad. You're going to have Deegan.
Deegan.
But you're going to have Deegan as a title contender. I guarantee you Chance will be a top 3 guy. I guarantee you that the other kid I'm thinking of, I truly believe Hawkins has potential, and I truly believe I'm blanking. Oh, Ryder D. And then Jet Reynolds, who hasn't really shown out. I don't even know if he's healthy anymore. I think he's out.
Max Volan could easily, if he gets the right ride.
See, I like Max, but he's an example of like, I don't think he was more talented than this class. He came out from B, right? He never went A, but he hasn't really panned out. I mean, if I were investing in him, I would be frustrated. Been like, dude, a 5th is all we got, and no Supercross results. I'm just saying that we disagree.
The talent hasn't disappeared. And like, I look at him and Jet Reynolds, they're 2 guys I would like to take a flyer on, because if you can rebuild their confidence, you got yourself a contender again. And that's just,
we'll see. So I do believe, and I'm going to stamp it now, that I think between Deegan, Hymas, Ryder D, and I would love to throw Kate in there. We just don't know yet. Like, I think he's baby stepping, and his approach has been different. His approach has been, I just don't want to get hurt. I want to make it through a whole complete season. Then I bet you those kids next year are like, oh, wow,
Derek,
we're talking about them. Oh, sorry. I don't know. Bad internet.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
You look like that guy, Max Headroom from the old Pepsi commercial.
Like, you need to lean back a little bit, the camera to.
Do you remember Max Headroom? You guys remember?
Yeah.
But I'm just being a dick because I'm just randomly interjecting.
No, I'm sorry about that. I was just going to say, I think we'll be talking about those guys over the next 3 years a lot more than more than you would for a class of not talented guys. Like, I actually think they're talented guys, all of them. I don't know how to fix the settings.
I still think you're going to, I don't know. I think we're going to hear about Deegan, and I don't know about the other guys.
Fair enough. We'll have to see in 2 years.
Well, he's had to change his tune on Deegan too.
I did, and I'll probably end up having to change my tune on that either. So yeah.
Fair enough.
But hey, I feel like that is a good segue here, guys. I hope everyone enjoys their effing weekend. And this was a fun conversation. And Derick, we will definitely have you back on the channel, because you're very intelligent when it comes to especially the inner workings of motorcycles.
Yes. I definitely appreciate the information you bring to the table, Derick. I love the suspension. Just the fact that the rebound thing for KTM, I hope somebody from KTM is listening and maybe you solved their problems.
Probably not the first to say it. So we'll see what happens. All right. Thank you guys for having me on. It was a real pleasure.
And we've got his links in the description below. So make sure you hit him up. And then, hey, he's got some really fast bikes. So if you want a damn near unfair advantage, ask him to do some motor work for you. So can you guys brop with me? Because it's,
of course.
All right. Well, here, I'm switching it to gallery view so we can see all of us. Brop.
Good times.
Oh, love it. Good stuff. Thanks, Derick. I appreciate it, man. That was fun. So.
Yep. I'll get at you again. Don't worry about it.